basically what happens then is like she gets kidnapped by the Abrasaxes in various things. You know, she meets Khalik, who explains all the weird Earth lore. But then she meets Titus, who is like, okay, here's the thing.
And Titus is the rugby player, brother.
The rugby player sport man. He's like, firstly, I know you're genetically identical to my mom, but you're looking fucking sexy.
Mom? You're looking fine as hell.
Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm B Royalty.
And this week, we talk a lot about noble titles as we watch Jupiter Ascending. Before we sick our dog boyfriend on some flesh harvesters, remember you can help us on Mortified the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for our monthly newsletter through the link in our show notes, or following us on Twitter and Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla.
What's up?
We've been on a bit of a sci-fi kick lately. Last episode, we watched the Star Wars prequels. I don't think Undertale's really a sci-fi, but it's, you know, it falls into some fantastic tropes about kingdoms and you know, royalty. And we really stepped in it this time with Jupiter Ascending, I think.
Yeah, we're knee deep, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Knee deep in bees. Leyla, did you watch this movie in theaters when it came out?
God, I wish I did. I regret nothing more than not giving the Wachowski sisters the benefit of the doubt and going to see this full IMAX.
This would have actually looked great in IMAX. When did you see it?
Honestly, funny thing, I saw it right around when I watched Fast and Furious. It was that summer. So like 2 years ago.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah. Man, you must have had a great summer in 2019.
Wait, what am I talking about? Last year's summer. It was quarantine summer.
Oh, okay, never mind. I was there. We were both there. We both had a bad time.
We both had, yeah, that's why this podcast is a thing.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, I hope that the antics of Mila Kunis cheered you up during that terrible time. So just to briefly summarize, we're gonna try something new and actually talk about the plot a little bit today. But
what a thing to start that with.
Yeah, but to summarize, so basically what happens is Mila Kunis is this girl named Jupiter Jones. She realizes that she is a space monarch, and that like she is basically alien royalty. You know, humans apparently didn't come from Earth. They come from this planet very far away. And she discovers that she is the reincarnated like mom of the three most powerful people in the galaxy, I guess. They're called the Abrasax siblings. She realizes that she is their reincarnated parent and that she has a title, and Earth is included in her title. And if you know anything about Crusader Kings, you know that titles are very important when it comes to claiming property. So she has to go claim her title and prevent the Abrasax siblings from harvesting Earth, because also they live forever by melting humans down into flesh serum and doing cool baths in it. And she gets some help from Channing Tatum, who's like a wolf man, which is neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the gist of that 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, it's completely straightforward. I don't see anything that could maybe trip somebody up. But if you are maybe a new time listener, or maybe not a new time listener, that's not a thing. Somebody who has not watched Jupiter Ascending, we have recorded so many podcasts the last 2 weeks, falling apart here.
Genuinely softly losing it.
Let's talk about the characters real quick. How do you feel about Jupiter Jones, Leyla?
I mean, like, I think there's a bit of a review you posted in our outline that I think I agree with. She is what every girl wants to role play on a message board in 2002. She wants to be the cool space monarch with the cool winged wolf boyfriend on roller skates. That being said, like, that culture is such a microcosm of, it's such a time capsule, right? So, like, there's not really role-playing forums so much anymore. I remember I used to do it a lot on, like, the Inuyasha forum on adultswim.com. Yeah, of course, like, Natch. And I did have, like, a beautiful little Mary Sue OC. Love her to death. She was a half bat, half wolf demon. Watch out.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So
would have
actually,
fit perfectly in this film.
Basically, she was Channing Tatum. But
I was gonna say, yeah, that's exactly what Channing Tatum is.
But like, that being said, I feel like some of the issues with Jupiter, like not having a ton of agency, are also kind of part of that time capsule, because even in those fantasies of like being the cool space lady with the cool dog boyfriend, unfortunately, we were still not quite up to date on our cultural discussion of internalized misogyny, and so, like, damsel in distress narratives were very, like, prevalent even in a fantasy where you had all the power, you know? Like,
yeah, I mean, part of the fantasy is to be rescued by the cool, hot wolf man.
Yeah, Awooga. So, so
that was the most lifeless Awooga I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, it's been a rough week. Yeah, it's... I'll give you a heartier one when we start talking about one of our
about
siblings.
Kane-wise? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Jupiter. How about you?
I mean, no, I think she's largely fine. Mila Kunis does her best with what she's given. You know, there's some actually genuinely very funny lines that she delivers in a very fun way. Like when she's flirting with Kane, who is the aforementioned wolf boyfriend, like, and she's like trying to hook up with him. She's like, oh, and he's like, well, you know, you're a monarch and I'm just a weird mercenary ex-soldier hybrid creature. We could never be together. And she's like, well, that's not true. I love dogs. I've always loved dogs. And then he like walks away, and she's like, that was no good.
Well, so speaking of our hybrid, winged, rollerblading, ex-soldier merc, Channing Tatum, how do you feel about Kane Wise?
I mean, I kind of love him. He's like extremely like, okay, this is my first TTRPG character. I'm going to go through the rule book and combine every single cool trope. He's going to have the dragon wings, but also he's going to have them cut off because they're part of his tragic backstory where he was, you know, cast out by his family, but also he's a werewolf, but also he has a magic item that just lets him do cool roller skates, and also he's got plot armor and like a fucking laser shield. And, you know, he's like edgy and dark and moody and is just searching for his pack, which means, you know, a young woman he can take care of, which, you know what, that's fine. I love Kane Wise. I think that for what he's doing in this movie, he is exactly what he should be, no more, no less. Yeah,
he definitely, I'll say he ranks on the list of dog boyfriends. I don't know very highly, but he's on there. He's made the tier list.
I don't know if it was just me, but like, was there something weird about his face, or like, was he wearing eyeliner in a way that like made his face look funny, or am I just...
It looked squarer than it usually does. I'm not sure about eyeliner, but I was only half watching the movie because I've seen it a couple of times, so I would have to...
That's fair. I just, you know, I thought they might have, like, accentuated his wolf features more.
Oh, for sure.
But, like, all they did is say that, like, one day he, like, tore someone's throat out because he's genetically programmed to do that or whatever.
Well, fuck it. Let's look Mr. Tatum.
Because he definitely looks different than, like, say, a Magic Mike,
right?
He is
definitely wearing eyeliner.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just smudged eyeliner, and they did something to... I have hold on, there's a regular picture of him right next to it. So definitely did something to... I think his, like, goatee is doing something to his jaw, too, and the wolf ears are just, like, very pointy. He looks squarer, and he's wearing a smudged eyeliner. I love this look for him. Let's start... Do we want to start with Balaam?
Yeah, this is Eddie Redmayne, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Balaam Baleem, he is the main big bad of the Abraxas family. He's the one who murdered Jupiter Jones' previous life / his mom. And he talks in like a weird voice, like this.
And then sometimes he's shouting! No middle ground. No middle ground. He either talks in that voice or sometimes he's shouting. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, he's either doing a weird whisper like this, where he just wants to tell you about his magical empire, or he's like, kill her! Dragon people, kill her already! It's weird.
I think my favorite one is when Jupiter's like, 100 people died to create this serum. And he's like, I create life! And I destroy it. Like, it's just such a contrast. The performance is immaculate.
It's great. You know, Eddie Redmayne got a lot of shit for this role. I think he also like won an Emmy or something, whatever TV award you win, movie award you win, because he also played Stephen Hawking in The Theory of Everything. I believe that was him this year, but like, yeah, it was he won like both an Oscar and a Razzie for this performance, like in the same year. So like,
honey, he has the range.
Yeah, like, I don't think that's a dunk on him. I think he's just a good actor. I don't know what to tell you.
I thought he was hot in this movie, but then again, Eddie Redmayne is my post-Benedict Cumberbatch white man du jour. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. You had to sort of switch out the sharp cheekbones for a little bit more eccentricity. Yeah,
so I had to ditch. I outgrew Mr. Cumberbatch, and then now my strange, slightly bird-like white man of choice is Eddie Redmayne.
Mm-hmm. So Titus didn't do it for you?
No, he looked like he should be playing rugby, you know?
He does look like some sort of weird sports guy.
He's a big, like, jock energy.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in the plot breakdown, but his whole thing is that he wants to marry Jupiter to, allegedly to save her to make sure that all his titles get transferred to her when he's assassinated. But actually he's going to kill her, and then her titles will get transferred to him. So it's a really, really good plan.
I just think he wanted to have a party.
Honestly, it seems like he was just kind of bored and he wanted to have an excuse to get dressed up and hang out with all his millions of sim people.
I respect that, because the looks in this movie pop the fuck off.
The outfits are incredible. Don't get me wrong. Lastly, there's Kalik Abrasix, who is this... God, I don't think they give Kalik enough. I mean, basically she does all of the lore dumping, where she's like, hey, I abducted you, Jupiter. Now I'm going to tell you what's going on. So basically, we can live forever, and, humans actually killed the dinosaurs. We invaded, and then we wiped out the dinosaurs, which is a very fun plot point. Yeah, and then she gets stolen away from Kalik, and Kalik, never shows up in the story again, I think.
Yeah, I have no thoughts on her. She's there, she lore dumps, and then she has a cool hairdo, and she leaves. Yeah,
she's largely unimportant, unfortunately. I wanted to talk about a couple scenes in this movie, mostly so we could sort of keep the audience engaged and sort of understand why, some context for what we're talking about, but also just because there's some that stood out to me. So I liked the introduction of us. We learn who Jupiter's character is, right? We get the scene of her waking up in this very small apartment with her mom at 4:45 a.m. And we get this montage of her, just being like, I have to clean toilets all day, because that's their jobs. They go into rich people's houses and they clean toilets and they make up the bed. They're housekeepers, essentially. And I thought that was pretty good. I mean, basically just set up hey, this is our protagonist. It shows that she is, not a rich person. This is her, I wish thing is is the opening dialogue where she talks about how her dad met her mom while they were stargazing. He was stargazing on the river Volga and almost freeze to death because he just loves the stars so much. And I thought that was really cute. I thought it was just a pretty effective character intro overall, and we kind of get introduced to a lot of the other characters, her aunts and cousins, and we see that they're all just sort of in this one family that's all just trying to pull their money together and try to scrape for a better life. And I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, generally speaking, like a montage like that, you really got to sell your character. And listen, again, Jupiter Jones is a vehicle for like young sci-fi fantasy. So to have her come to be like a baby of love, because I mean, with character backgrounds like this, you either need her to be the daughter of the love of all time or tragic backstory. And to have her be a product of love is great, and it balances out Kane's tragic ass shit. And it's cute, and I really like all those scenes. And again, it's like effective to have her be literally scrubbing toilets, which is the go-to kind of like example of a blue collar job, right? When people they talk about like plumbers and people who scrub toilets, and then have her be space royalty. It's a lovely little contrast. I'm into it, personally speaking.
Yeah, it's great. And that sort of leads into this scheme that her cousin has, where he's like, okay, here's the thing, Jupiter. People love eggs, woman eggs specifically. And like he convinces Jupiter to harvest or like basically sell her eggs to, you know, like a fertility clinic, basically. That way they can make like, I don't know, like $5,000 or something. It's maybe 10,000. It's not very much money, unfortunately, but like, you know, it's a lot for them.
Which that bitch is lucky she can do that, because I've looked into it, and you need to be the pinnacle of genetic health to even fucking think about donating your eggs. I could have paid off my student loans, but I have depression, so they don't want me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's no good. I mean, we'll talk about the implications of, you know, genetics in this movie in a sec. Because they have, to quote the movie, an almost spiritual significance.
Yeah, woof.
Which is a choice. Speaking of woof, so she goes into this gene clinic, and it turns out all the gene doctors are like, not gene clinic, but this egg clinic, and all the doctors and nurses are like these little aliens that are coming to, like, you know, kill her, basically. They've been ordered to kill her by the Abraxases. And then Channing Tatum sort of blasts his way in, and he, you know, fights them off and rescues her. And, you know, aside from the fact that the egg harvesting concept is pretty wild and silly, I do like the introduction of Kane just as like this guy who's coming in to save you from a whole bunch of weird aliens. Like it is not a flattering position that she is being saved in. She is like in a paper gown and like flipped, so she's like face down, just like sort of hovering. It's like it could have been, you know, it's not a very sexy meet cute is all I'm saying.
Do you know what it kind of reminded me of for some godforsaken reason?
Oh, no.
Of Dara and Nari from the City of Rest.
How so?
Just like a similar supernatural creatures coming to kill a secretly royal human girl, and then hot supernatural savior comes in to grab her. Okay,
yeah, that's definitely fair.
Yeah. Just like in the broad sense, not in the Nari was trying to donate her eggs.
Yeah, I was like, interesting read. But yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, so Kane rescues her with his cool roller skate jet boots. He whisks her away to meet his friend Stinger, who is also an ex-Legionnaire.
Who is half bee.
Is he half?
That's why he's half bee.
Okay.
That's why his name is Stinger.
I didn't catch.
He's a bee.
I guess that makes sense why his whole house is like covered in beehives. Okay, I like this scene because I mean we do get the part where, you know, Jupiter like disrupts the beehives, or like no, like Kane and this guy Stinger are fighting because, you know, Kane is the reason Stinger got kicked out of the Legion for plot reasons, and they're fighting and like they're punching each other, and Stinger's like daughter comes out and she's like 14, she's just like, oh, is my dad just trying to make friends again? And she's like, yeah, I guess so. But then like whatever happens, like I don't know if one of them gets thrown into a beehive or like Jupiter is just clumsy and knocks into a beehive, But for whatever reason, a bunch of bees just start, swarming around Jupiter, and then they recognize her genetic royalty in her blood, her blue blood, and they swarm around her, and then I think it's just very funny that she has the power to command bees. That's a very good superpower, I think.
Because bees always know their queen. And she stands there, and at the tips of her fingers are just these swarms of bees, and she just kind of conducts them for a minute. It's my favorite scene in all of cinema, easily. It's just such a good reveal. They're in an apiary and a wolf man is fighting a bee man, and Mila Kunis is the bee queen. It's just really good.
I think it's inherently very silly, but I think it is maybe the best way you can reveal that someone's secret royalty, right? To go to another common touchstone, when Harry Potter learns he's a wizard, basically a big man breaks down his door and tells him he's a wizard, and he goes, "I'm a what?" And that's all well and good. But
is he a bee queen?
Exactly. I think this is a much more effective character introduction because, people who know about how beehives work are oh, yeah, I guess it makes sense that she would be royalty. That's why the bees are acting weird. I think it's a novel and interesting concept. And yeah, I really like it. And then later on, when they realize that, all these mercenaries are going to come and try to swipe Jupiter, they do this thing where they're getting ready to fight them off, Stinger and Kane do. And Kane takes his shirt off and he spends the next 40 minutes to an hour shirtless for no reason, which rules. And then
Channing Tatum is such a champ.
Listen, that man exists to be objectified, and he gets paid for it. And you know what? God bless him.
God bless him.
But Stinger is explaining that Kane's whole deal is he was a runt of his wolf pack or whatever, and he got thrown out. And most of the time, people who get thrown out of their wolf pack, they can't survive, except unless they become a perfect killing machine like Kane is. But secretly, deep down, all he wants is to be a part of a pack. Isn't that right, Giddy?
Yeah. My dog agrees wholeheartedly.
But I think that is such a, if we're talking about wish fulfillment, right? The one thing that is, typically, not to speak for all young girls, but I think it is very inherently appealing to be oh yes, my sexy submissive boyfriend just wants me to be his pack leader. That's an inherently very attractive thing to some people.
Well, it's the genetic equivalent to oh my god, what am I thinking of? It's soulmate narratives. It's a trope in fan fiction to be oh, I have a tattoo and I can't read it, but it's the name of my soulmate and only that person can read it. Do you not know about this? Am I blowing your mind? It's real. So then the whole thing is they run into this person oh, cool tattoo. It says Chad or some shit that his name is Chad. You know what I mean? That's the summation of it, or oh, we're connected by the red string of fate. I'm saying this as if I'm making fun of it. No, I buy into this shit. Listen, if you present this to me in a creative way, fuck yeah. It's just an extension of that, right? So, is it weird that it has a genetic component? I guess. But, again, I love dogs. I've always loved dogs.
Great. Good. Basically what happens then is she gets kidnapped by the Abrasaxes in various things. She meets Khalik, who explains all the weird Earth lore. But then she meets Titus, who is okay, here's the thing.
And Titus is the rugby player, brother.
The rugby player sport man. He's firstly, I know you're genetically identical to my mom, but you're looking fucking sexy.
Mom? You're looking fine as hell.
Anyway, I'm about to get whacked, so let's get married. Is his whole plot point. And the thing about that is that's a really stupid premise. And it, the incest stuff is a lot. Don't get me wrong. But I think the wedding scene itself is extremely fun and cool. Cause Mila Kunis is in this red and white, or yeah, this white dress with these red petal stylings. And it's very extravagant and cool. and like the entire wedding is staffed by like these, you know, Sims, which are like robots with like people faces that are like jutting out from them, and like he didn't have to do this because he says like this is all just a contract, but also he just like wanted to party so bad.
Oh, he wanted to party so fucking bad. He could have just done what his older brother was doing, is just like low-key been like, hey, you're in my office, you're gonna hand off your fucking title to me right now. No, this motherfucker was like, oh, you know, we could like go to the courthouse and just like really quick. Or we could dress you up real cute and I could dress up real cute and we could meet at the altar and you'll put your hand in this machine and like a ring will very slowly be drafted onto your finger and it'll be really dramatic and really cool and you have to like read a speech and then we can have drinks and then I'll kill you. But it's excellent. It's an excellent little character moment and I love it and I thrive for it and I would do the same thing.
I think that point is like where the movie should have like had its narrative climax. I think that it really loses me in the last third where we talk about freaking Baleem and his very boring sequence where he's just like, I'm gonna kill you in this weird refinery on Jupiter, but it's gonna take 40 minutes and I'm going to move very slowly the whole time.
If this film ended with Mila Kunis being rescued by her newly bewinged wolf boyfriend, on, again, can't emphasize this enough, space roller skates, we're not fucking kidding, he's on space roller skates. If he busted through that fucking chapel roof and rescued her, and it was like, you know, to be continued with, and, you know, Baleem got like more of an arc in a sequel, perfect movie, no notes.
Yeah, that's...
Well, some notes.
Some notes.
Mostly
Listen,
no notes.
Notes about the genetic stuff, but...
yeah.
Like, yeah, but, I really think that this movie probably should have been at least 2, if not 3, like, split between the 3 Abraxas characters, so that way they actually get arcs, and we actually get a little bit more development, a little bit more pining between Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum. But, like, yeah, I think the Wachowskis were like, we're not going to get another shot at this. So they had to just go for it, and I respect that.
I respect the shit out of it. Well, that's the thing, is there were supposed to be more movies. Like, this was supposed to be the big sci-fi franchise, and I'm pissed that it isn't.
I mean, I think there's so much about this series that I love. Like, this is coming out a week after our prequels episode, and we talk a lot about how the prequels are almost something. And this movie is also almost something. It gets very close to some really neat ideas. I mean, I think I think all the CGI spaceships look dope as hell, and there's like so many cool concepts. Like, listen, I am extremely here for a genetically modified legion of winged wolf soldiers. Like, fuck yeah, I'm sold. There's a really cool sequence where like they're defending a spaceship, and like the defenses are just like waves and waves of these like circular mines, and they have to like blast their way through them, and they look incredible. And I love that because it's not just like a little like a dogfighting sequence. It's just like, oh, we're just gonna send waves and waves of fucking space mines at you. Like, I think that's dope. But like, it just sort of, I don't think the characters get enough time to really get developed. I really would have liked more time for especially Khalik, but also for Baleem to like have actually become a believable villain, besides the fact that he just talks funny. You know,
and wears a cool cape.
Yeah, there's also a sequence where they get her title, and it's just like a 10-minute sequence of her going through like the royal bureaucracy, which like I didn't hate. I like fucking stupid bureaucracies for no reason, but like they introduced this, you know, character who's just like, I'm going to help you navigate the paperwork, and it takes them 5 minutes to go through all the weird royal title offices zones, and then he finally bribes someone, and then they're like, oh, okay, here you go, and that's how she gets her title. It's just it's such a weird tangent, like for no reason. I'm not saying I didn't like that it was in the movie, but I do think that the movie didn't need it.
It feels like something that survived a rewrite.
Exactly, yeah.
But, listen, again, this is 2004 Forum Roleplay, the movie. So I'm inclined to forgive it a lot because brace yourself, similar to like Promare, it's one of those movies that, yeah, Aaron's making faces at me. Similar to Promare is one of those movies where, like, you sit down to watch it and you don't know what you're in for, but you just become visually blasted with nonsense. And I delight in almost every second of it. Like, I agree with you. I think the last third kind of slows down a little bit, but, like, Eddie Redmayne whisper yelling does do a lot for me, just in terms of entertainment values.
I like it. I don't know why people were like, "Oh, this is stupid." Like, yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, it's not everything. Like, I mean, I think for the same reason that the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, are like a little bit maligned. Like, they're goofy. Anakin Skywalker as a concept is goofy. He's goofy in the same sense that Jupiter Jones is goofy. Like, they're just goofy. Like, just lean in. Let it wash over you. Join in. I think part of the reason I don't have fun with a lot of, like, modern sci-fi fantasy, like, I didn't have a lot of fun with Game of Thrones, is because it just takes itself too seriously. We got dragons! Spaceships! Dog boyfriends! It's silly. I miss sci-fi being silly. And I think maybe that's why we got such a kick out of the Fast franchise, is because it's unapologetically silly and people take it at face value.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I wish they had maybe tried to be a little bit less prestigious and a little bit more just like, yeah, this is some wild bullshit. Listen, there's a fucking elephant man piloting our ship, but, you know, we introduce him and then completely leave him alone, and that's fine. You know, there's a entire gang of dragon men who are weird minions, and you know what? They're totally fine. You know, everybody the fucking Willis Tower could get shot up by a spaceship and nobody will remember because we just have mind wiping technology. Like, I want more of that and less of the, you know, long chase sequences, you know, less of the, I don't know. I didn't necessarily hate the explanation for the weird space empire royalty stuff. I do wish that maybe they had just given a little bit more time. Maybe a little bit more fun sequences where Jupiter and Kane are interacting, and less just Jupiter being like wildly horny, which like is understandable. Don't get me wrong, but like I just want a little bit more character development, and that's the thing. I don't even know necessarily what I mean when I say like this needs more character development. And maybe this moves on into our marketing minute, but like, I do think that there is a version of this movie that is better and is better received critically and does go on to become like a very interesting franchise. You know, what would you do to make, you know, how would you try to fix this movie?
I'm inclined to say make it a TV show. More time. More narrative breaks at the ends of episodes instead of at the end of movies, right? More like opportunity to tension build. I feel like this about a lot of stuff. Like I think some movies should just be episodic, you know, or a series of shorter films. Like this was a lot to cram into 2.5 hours. And it was thrilling. It was great fun, but you know, again, it wasn't received great because it is kind of a mess sometimes, you know, like just to a person who's not going in knowing that they're gonna watch kind of a mess and like enjoy it for the sake of it just being like a fun exploration by two like incredibly well recognized sci-fi directors. You know, you're going in to like kind of watch the Wachowskis like riff, right? And if you don't have that background, like if you're just like a consumer going in based on the trailer, like yeah, it's not really all that fun to watch. It's confusing, it's lofty, you probably won't have fun. But I think TV show like gives you a lot more opportunity to pull people in and gives you like more time to actually not only explain your weird space bureaucracy, but maybe like flesh out some side characters that'll give that space bureaucracy life. And I think the thing for me that rang funny with these characters that I think is maybe why they read funny for you too, is that and they're that weird mid-ground of development where they're not quite fully fleshed out people, but they're not like overly dramatized enough to just be like tropes. right? Because I think it works at either extreme. I think it works to have really well developed, nuanced characters, and then I think it works to have just like, you know, like the villain, the hero, the space boyfriend. But they're just like just off of center to those things where it feels like you don't know if you want them to be more dramatized or if you want them to be more grounded. But I think like a longer format might have helped with that, and then you could have more side characters that could flesh out the world for you instead of having info dumps. So
I think that's a great answer to something I've been thinking about. I saw this Tumblr post today about somebody bemoaning the fact that, you know, with the new like Disney Plus and Netflix series, we're getting, you know, seasons that are between 6 and, you know, 8 episodes long, where we used to have, you know, 22 episode seasons. And I know that, you know, from your work in animation, maybe it's better that we have short things, but I think that they made some valid points, which is that like there is a lot more time for slow, less interesting, or not necessarily less interesting, but less plot heavy, less intense, you know, narrative moments, and a lot more just like easy slice of life bits where the characters are able to just be more natural and allow more of their personalities to come out to show who they are when they aren't, you know, under gunfire all the time. And I think that is a moment that is a thing that we should probably think about when we as creatives are trying to design characters and express who they are. You know, in my TTRPGs, I always schedule for downtime to let players express themselves as far as, you know, what they would be doing if they weren't on mission. You know, and when I outline in my stories, I say, okay, this needs, you know, character moment where they do something that shows who they are. And I don't know to what degree I find success in those moments, but I do feel like if only Jupiter Ascending had been able to have a little bit more breathing room, it would have been a lot more successful at what it was trying to go for.
yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. Hey, if you were a splice, what animal would you be spliced with?
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you asked this question. This is kind of similar. I feel like we asked something like similar to this in Kipo. I think I said like some sort of bird thing. But now that I know that I could be like a fucking dragon or a bee, man. Yeah. You know, I liked the elephant man. I don't maybe want the elephant nose, but maybe like some cool tusks. But I also want to be like a shark. I think some sort of ocean creature. So like a shark with tusks, and like I'd have a cool fin coming out of my head. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I'd fuck with that. I think I'd go bird of paradise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which are the goofy fucked up birds that their mating dance, the way they like expand their chest feathers and kind of like lean over, it makes their whole thing look like a smiley face when they do their mating dance.
Okay, I see.
It's those birds. And I think I would want to do something like that so then I could have some like armored feathers, right? Because they have like a built-in chest plate. And then I would want to be like a royal guard, you know? Because then I could be like both ostentatious and functional. And those are kind of my crossroads.
Excellent. And when you go to the club and start twerking, like everyone will see your smiley face.
I'll be like, the disco ball.
Oh, yes, perfect.
I'll just be the thing the lights reflect
Everyone
off
will
of.
hold their phones up and just blast you with light.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be at the club.
Hell yeah. It's a short one, but you know, we've done fucking 4 podcasts in the last 10 days, so...
Yeah, we're so tired. We love our listeners, but we also are going insane.
Yeah. Leyla, when we're not trying to schedule podcasts so we can provide our 13 listeners with sweet, sweet content, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm at LEYLSES on Tumblr, Twitter. Those 2 things, Tumblr and Twitter. And I'm currently knee-deep in looking for a new job. So if you know somebody looking for an associate producer, holler at me, please. Aaron, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at AaronSXL, where I talk about writing things and TTRPG things. Hopefully by the time that this episode goes up, my essay for Interstellar Flights magazine about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, almost critiquing America, will be published. So please look out for that. I make other podcasts. Other podcast is at The Bible Boys. I don't know if it'll be this week or a week previous. Time is so confusing, but Michael and Josh will be doing an episode without me because I will be hopefully visiting. At this point, when this episode drops, I will have met Leyla for the first time, which is really fun. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. So that's fun. But yeah, I'll be busy at the week before this episode. I'm cutting all this. This doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla, when we are trying to establish our right to rule the earth, what do we tell everyone?
You don't treat your cousin like chicken.
We'll see you all next week.